Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis at the very top. The Gemara is discussing making a bracha on the Eish Motzei Shabbos at Havdalah. Adam HaRishon on Motzei Shabbos rubbed two stones together and produced fire, a flame. As a zeicher to that Eish, we make a bracha Borei Me'orei HaEish on Motzei Shabbos. The Gemara discusses the Mishnah tells us you don't make a bracha on that flame, on that eish, unless you get benefit. What does it mean until you get benefit? The Gemara comes to explain. Omar Rav Yehuda Amarav, Lo ye'uso mamish, ela kol she'ilu oimed bekarov, umishtamesh la'ora, va'afilu berachok makom. Says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav that you don't have to get pleasure directly from the flame, but if you were to stand close enough to the flame, it would be a flame that would produce benefit to you, light to you. Then even from afar you can make a bracha borei me'orei ha'ish, so long as you can see that flame. Even when you're far away and you see that flame from a distance, you can still make a bracha because potentially, had you been close, it would be fitting to then get benefit from that flame. Meisvei asked the Gemara the following question from the following brisa: Haisa lo ner tmuna bechekoi ubepanas. If you have a ner that is hidden in a person's chest or in a lantern where there's glass covering up that flame, or shero shal heves, or you see the flame, but you don't benefit. You don't see the flame. You don't use the or rather. You see the flame, but you don't use the light. Or conversely, you use the light, but you don't see the flame. You don't make a bracha until you have both components, that you see the flame and you also use the or, the light. So the Gemara explains now this brisa, asking the following: Bishlama mishtamesh la'ara v'lo'ira shal heves mishkachasor. That's fine according to the case where you are using the light and you don't see the flame. So we can find a case like that, Bekeren Zovis, where the Kaimalam Bekerazov, where it's in the corner. So that's such a situation where you're using the light, but you don't see the flame. Elera shall heves, but when you see the flame, v'lo nishtamesh ba'ara, but you don't use the light, heichi meshkachas lo. What is that such a case? La demarchaka, is it not from a distance that we're talking about? And therefore, it would be a kasha on Rav Yehuda Marav, who just said from a distance you can make a bracha on such a flame. Says the Gemara, lo, there's no kasha from this brisa. Kegon da'amya va'azla, because we're talking about over here in the brisa where the flame became dimmer and dimmer, and therefore, as it was getting dim, you couldn't then see and use the light of that flame. The Gemara brings a brisa, ton rabbanon, in regards to making this bracha borei me'orei ha'esh, gecholim loichashois mevarchin aleim umamois ein mevarchin aleim. If it's coals that are lit, that are loichashois, they're on fire, then you can make a bracha on those flames. Umamos, however, if they're dimmed, you cannot make a bracha on it. Ask the Gemara, heichi dami loichashois. What is the definition that it's lit? What does it mean that a coal is lit? They can make a bracha on it. Amar Rav Chizda koshe ilu machnis lesoichan kisom v'dolekes me'eleho. The definition would be if you take a thin piece of wood and you put it on top of this coal, it would become inflamed. That's enough of a coal that's considered to be lochashos, so you can make a bracha borei me'orei ha'esh on that coal. Iboilahu, ask the Gemara a technical question, the spelling of this word oimamos. Umamos means with an aleph or umamos with an ayin. Says the Gemara Toshma, Dom Rav Chizda bar Avdimi, Posik, Arazim loy amamuhu began Elokim. The cedars did not become dimin in the garden of Elokim. So you see the word dim is Lashon amamus, amamuhu is used over here with the letter ayin in the beginning. Rava Amar Ye'usoy Mamish. Rava, he argues on Rav Yehuda Mara that we started off with by saying differently than his shita. Vekama asks the Gemara, what does it mean you? So Mamish, according to Rava, has to direct benefit from this flame in order to make a brach on it, and not like Rav Yehuda Mara who said, so potentially, as long as it's fitting to give you benefit, even if you're not close enough to it, you can still make a bracha, because from afar, had you been close, you could have gotten the benefit. So what is the machloikis? What does Rava say is the definition of getting benefit from this flame? Omar Ula Kidesh Yakir Bein Iser Lepundion. The amount of benefit you have to get from this light is that you can distinguish between two different coins, an Iser and a Pundion. Chizkiya Omar Chizkiya says it has to be even a greater flame. Kidesh Yakir Bein Meluzma Shel Tiveria Lemeluzma Shel Tzipari. So you can distinguish between two things that are even more similar, two different types of weights. They have a scale in the city of Tiveria versus the scale in the city of Tzipari that look very similar. You need more light to distinguish between these two scales. Rav Yehuda mevarech adebei ade daila. Rav Yehuda, who's of the opinion that says that so long as you could potentially get benefit from the light, even if you're far away, you can make a bracha, because had you been close, you can get benefit. And therefore, you would make a bracha on the house of Ada Daila. Rav, on the other hand, who says that you must get direct benefit, and therefore you must be close enough to the flame where that you can distinguish either between two coins or between two scales. Mevarech adebe Gurya Barchama. He would make a bracha on the Eish in the house of Gurya Barchama, which we will be close enough to that, make that bracha. Abaye Mevarech adebe Bar Avua. Abaye would make a bracha on the house of Bar Avua, and it's not clear what is Abaye's position over here. Does he mean to say like Rav Yehuda, and therefore you can be farther away, even if you're not getting direct benefit? Or does he mean to say, like the opinion of Rava, that you must be close enough to get direct benefit? Rav Yehuda Marav, ein machzirin al ha'ur, kedei shemachzirin al ha'mitzvahs. Although when it comes to mitzvahs, a person has to run after, and it's the matriach himself to perform mitzvahs. But when it comes to the ur, making a bracha on the eish, motzei Shabbos, so then he doesn't have to be machzirin al ha'eish. Because as we said before, the eish is a zecher ba'alma to Adam Harishon, who rubbed two stones together, causing a flame of eish to then erupt. So therefore make a bracha on the eish motzei Shabbos. But if a person does not have eish available, he doesn't have to then matriach himself and go after the eish. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Zeira Morish have a mahardruna kivan de shamana lohod Rav Yehuda Omar Rav ananami lo mahadrona eli mikla li memela mevarichna. He said, I used to go after the eish in order to make a bracha on it motzei Shabbos, but once I heard this statement that was made in the name of Rav, so then I also stopped being mahader, being machzer achar the ur after the eish to make a bracha on it motzei Shabbos. The Gemara now moves on to the next machloikis in the Mishnah. It's a machloikis about if a person eats a seudah of bread and then he leaves that place where he ate from after eating that seudah. Does he have to go back to the original place to make birkas hamazon, or can he make birkas hamazon in the place where he finds himself now? So the machloikis, Beis Shammai says he has to go back if it's b'shogeg, and Beis Hillel says if it's b'shogeg, then he can remain where he is and make birkas hamazon there. Says the Gemara, Misha ochal v'chulei, Omer Rav Zvid v'itemo Rav Dimi bar Abe machloikis b'shochach. The machlokes in Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is if a person forgot to make birkas hamazon, then he goes to another place and then he realizes that he didn't make birkas hamazon yet. So then that's where they're arguing. Aval b'meizid Divrei hakol yachzir lemekoimo vivarech. But if it's been made that he leaves his place where he ate, and he wants to now leave that place in order to then bench, say Birkas Hamazon in a different place, then everybody agrees, including Reb Beis Hillel, that he must go back to the original place where he ate to make Birkas Hamazon. Ask the Gemara, Pshita? Of course, that's Pshita. That's straightforward. V'shochach tnan. Our Mishnah teaches that a person ate and then he forgot to make Birkas Hamazon, and now he's in another place. So clearly, we're talking about shoygeg. Says the Gemara, Ma'u desema. I might have thought, Hu hadin afilu b'mezid. Even if it's b'mezid, also, then according to Beis Hillel, we would not have to go back to the original place. V'hai diktani v'shochach, that which he taught over here in the Mishnah, that he forgot, lohodiacha koichan de Beis Shammai, only to teach you the power, the strength of Beis Shammai's opinion that a person has to make Birkas Hamazon in the original place, even b'shoigeg. Kamash malan, that if it's b'mezid, Beis Hillel says you must go back. He agrees with Beis Shammai, and their machlokes is only b'shoigeg. Tanya, the Gemara brings a brayso. Amru lahem Beis Hillel leBeis Shammai. In regards to this inyan that we're talking about, Beis Hillel says to Beis Shammai the following: L'divreichem, according to your words, Beis Shammai, misha ochal beroish habira, a person who eats on the top of a tower, v'shochach v'yorad v'lo beirach yachzer leroish habira v'vorech. Then, if he forgot to make Birkas Hamazon, and only after going down from that tower, and then he realizes he's somewhere else that he didn't yet bench, he didn't yet say Birkas Hamazon, according to you, Beis Shammai, you have to go back up and climb that tower again to the place where he originally ate and make Birkas Hamazon. Amru lahem Beis Shammai Beis Hillel l'divreichem. According to your words, Beis Hillel, Misha shochach arneki b'rosh habira, a person who was sitting on the top of a tower and forgot his purse, his money, lo yale v'yitlena, would he not trouble himself to go back and climb that tower again to get that money that he left? L'chavod atzmo hu oile, l'chavod shamayim lo kol shekain. Beis Shammai argues, if he would do that for himself, which certainly he would, certainly he should do that then for the Kvod Shamayim to say Birkas Hamazon. Hanhu, the Gemara says the following two maisim. Trei Talmidei, there are two students. Chad Ovid b'shoigeg ki Beis Shammai, ve'eshkach arneko didahava. There were two students. One who left by accident, by accident like Beis Shammai, which means that he forgot to make Birkas Hamazon where he ate, and he went back to make Birkas Hamazon. And it says over here, the Eshkach Arneka de Dahava, and he found a Arneka de Dahava, and he found money of gold. He found a purse of gold. V'chad avi b'mezid ki Beis Hillel va'achli aryeh. And one ate his meal, and he left purposely to go ahead and make Birkas Hamazon in a different place, and then he didn't have the proper shmirah, and as a result, an aryeh, a lion, ate him. Rabbi Bar Chana have a ka'ozul b'shayirsa. The Gemara goes on to say the following ma'aseh. Rabbi Bar Chana, he was traveling in a shayirasa. Ochal ve'ishtelei v'lo borich. He ate and he forgot to make Birkas Hamazon where he originally ate. Omar, he said, Heichi a'avid. What should I do? He's asking himself. I'amina lehu inshoy levorech. If I will tell the people that I'm with, what I'm traveling with, that I forgot to make Birkas Hamazon, Amri li, they're going to say to me, Barich, bench where you are. Kol heicha de mivareches l'rachamona mivareches. Wherever you are, you can make a bracha to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, whether it's here or it's there. And therefore, mutav da'amina luhu, better that I should say to them, anshoy yoine didahava. I forgot a golden dove. Omar luhu. He said to them, Antruly the inshoy yoine didahava. Will you wait for me? Will you be shoymer for me until I go get that golden dove? Ozil, he went, uborich and he made Birkas Hamazon. Ve'eshkach Yonid Dahava, and he found a golden dove in the place where he made Birkas Hamazon, where he ate. Now, although a person, like we saw before, that if a person behaves like Beis Shammai, that we say he's chayiv benafsha, over here, even Beis Hillel will say it's mishubach, for a person to go out of his way, even b'shoigeg, to go back to the original place to say Birkas Hamazon, only he doesn't have to. And therefore he was blessed with a Yonid Dahava. So Gemara wants to understand, what is this idea of Yonid Dahava? He told them, I'm going back for the Yonid Dahava. Says the Gemara to explain, Umay Shna Yoina, what's the Inyan, what's the difference of a Yoina? The Mitile Knesses Yisrael La Yoina, because Klal Yisrael is compared to a dove. The Chsiva says in the Pasuk, Kanfe Yoina Nechbe Bekesef, the feathers of a Yona, of a dove, are covered with silver. The Evroseha Birakrak Charutz, and its wings that it flies is also covered with gold. Ma Yoina Eina Nitzeles Ella B'Knafel, just as the Yona bird, the dove, is only able to save itself from harm from its enemies with its wings, either by flying away or instead of pecking at like other birds to defend itself, it actually defends itself with its wings. Af Yisrael einon nitzoylin ela b'mitzvos. So too Yisrael are only saved with their mitzvahs. In other words, Klal Yisrael, who's compared to the dove, their wings are compared to the silver and gold of the wings of the dove, is compared to over here to the Torah and the mitzvahs of Klal Yisrael. And therefore, when he said, I'm going to go back for the golden dove, he meant to say for the mitzvahs, referring to the Birkas Hamazon that he forgot to say. Now the Gemara goes on to the next part of the Mishnah that says, when a person did forget indeed to say Birkas Hamazon or Bracha Achrona, what is the lapse of time that he can still make that Bracha Achrona? Ad Emasaihu, the Mishnah says, Kama Shiur Ikul. How much, and the Mishnah says, until he has a shear of equal of digestion. So ask the Gemara, what is that shear? What is that amount that we're talking about of digestion? They can still make a bracha. Rabbi Yochanan, Kozman she'eino ro'ev. So long as he's not hungry again, he can still make the bracha achroina. V'reish Lakish Omar, Kozman she'yitzma, machmas achilosoi. As long as he's thirsty because of that food. Omar l'Rav Yeimar bar Shlamya l'mar Zutro v'amrei l'Rav Yeimar bar Shizvi l'mar Zutro. Mi Amar Reish Lakish hochi. Did Reish Lakish indeed say this? V'Omar Rav Ami Omar Reish Lakish Kama Shiur Ikul Kedei Lahalech Daled Milin. Reish Lakish said somewhere else that the shiur, the amount of ikul, of digestion, in order to still make a bracha achroina, is 4 milin. Each meal is 18 minutes, thereby it's 72 minutes. If a person still is within the 72 minutes, according to Reish Lakish, you can still make a bracha achroina. Says the Gemara Lokasha, kan be'achila meruba, kan be'achila mu'etes. There's a difference. When it's achila meruba, he eats a lot, a large meal, so then it's dalin milin, 72 minutes. If it's a little bit, then it's the shear in terms of how much he then will then be hungry for a new meal. Some learn the opposite. Some say that if it's a small amount of food, a suda that's ketana, then it's 72 minutes. The opposite. And if it's going to be a large meal, then indeed it's going to be 72 minutes. In other words, a large meal would be a shear of an ikul, of the ikul being that he will feel hungry, whereas a small meal would be the shear or of 72 minutes. Al pi halacha, it's so long as a person is not yet hungry for another meal, he can still say his bracha achroino. He's still not hungry yet. Says the Gemara, Bolahem yayin v'chulei. The Mishnah told us that the shita of Beis Shammai is that a person does not need to make a Birkas Hamazon ala kois. Beis Hillel says, indeed, he does make Birkas Hamazon ala kois. But the Mishnah that we're quoting over here for our Gemara is the next part of the Mishnah, Va'oinin Amen. If a person hears the entire bracha, even of a kuti, then he can make Amen. But only part of that bracha, then he cannot say Amen. Whereas when he hears part of the bracha of the Jew, knowing which bracha that Jew is making, he can say Amen. He can answer Amen. Ask the Gemara, remember the Yisrael, Afagav the Loi Shoma Kula Bracha Oine. Are you going to say that for Yisrael, even if you didn't hear his entire bracha, and of course we're talking about where you know which bracha he is saying, but you didn't hear the entire thing from beginning to end, only let's say the latter half, you can answer Amen. Ask the Gemara, V'chi lo shama hechi nafik. But if he didn't hear the bracha in its entirety, how can he then be yotzei this bracha? Here the Gemara is referring to that he's included in the zimun for Birkas HaMazon. And therefore, how can he then be included in that Birkas HaMazon if he didn't hear the entire bracha? We're not talking about where he ate with them, and therefore he needs to be yotzei with that person's bracha. We're talking about where he overheard the bracha. And therefore, he can answer Amen to that bracha. V'chein Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Bar Avua, b'shaloi ochal imahen. Amar lei Rav Lechia bereid. Rav Chia said to his son, Bri chatuf ubarich. He said, my son, grab and make the bracha. Referring to the zimun. You should make the zimun, and again, then the zimun meant that you would also make birkas hamazon and be moitzi those who are in the zimun together with you. V'chein am Rav Huna leRabba berei. So too Rav Huna said to his son, Chatuf ubarich, grab and make the bracha, meaning be the one, take the initiative to be the one to make the zimun and mevarich. Lememra asked the Gemara, the mevarich adif man de oni amen. Does that mean to say that the one who makes the bracha is better, is more adif, is more preferable than the one who answers amen? Vehatanya, Rabbi Yossi Omer Gadol ha'oina amen Yossi mina mavarich. Rabbi Yossi says in a different brisa that greater is the one who answers amen than the one who is making the bracha, because he has to sit and concentrate and hear word for word to be yotzei that bracha, and therefore when he listens to all the words and concentrates and then answers amen, that's a greater schar than the one who's making the bracha himself. Omer Rav Nehorai Hashamayim Keinu. He says, indeed, this is so that the one who answers amen is greater. I'll prove it to you. He takes a vow, a shvua. Teida shaharei, behold, gul yarin yardin umizgarin ba'milchama. V'gibarin yardin v'minatzchim. The weaker soldiers go up and begin the battle, whereas the stronger soldiers, they complete and are minatzeach, they are complete and then overpower the enemy at the end. Which is a reference to saying that the mevarich begins, but the one who completes it is the one who answers amen, he gets greater schar. The Gemara says, indeed, this is a machloikis tanoim. Tanoi hi detanyo. Echad ha-mevarich ve'echad ha-oine amen b'mashma. Elishmarin the mevarich yosim min ha-oine amen. There's a brisa that says that they're equal. However, in terms of the schar, greater is the one who says mevarech, who as mevarech makes the bracha, than the one who answers amen. So we have one time that says greater is the one who is mevarech, and the other brisa seems to imply that no, says that if a person who answers amen, that is greater. So the machlok is amongst the tanoim. Boy minei shmuel mrav ma'u la'anos amen achar tinoikos shel beis rabban. What about answering amen for children who are learning to say their brachos? Can you answer amen on those brachos? Omar lei achar hakol oinin amen chutz mitinoke shel beis rabban hoyel ulislamed asuyon. So he answered him that indeed with all brachos you're to answer amen. However, when it comes to the brachos that are being trained, that is the training of the children, those brachos, you're not to answer amen. V'hani mili bedeloi idon mifterayu, aval beidon mifterayu onin. However, there's an exception to this, that if they're making a bracha on the haftarah, and therefore they're making a bracha on the Torah, since Chazal instituted that they can then read the Haftarah and make a bracha on the Torah, for that you're to answer Amen. Of course, children who are Gil Chinuch and they're making brachos properly, certainly then you can answer Amen to those brachos. Tanu Rabbanon, the Gemara now brings Shemen Ma'akev in regards to Birkas HaMazon. So it says over here that Shemen is Ma'akev es HaBracha Div Rabbi Ziloi, that the shemen that is brought at the end of the meal, so that is ma'akev. So we learned on Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph what is considered the completion of the meal, that you can no longer eat food, and therefore you must begin Birkas HaMazon. So there was different opinions, and the Gemara ultimately said over there that it's Maim Achroinim, that is the ultimate thing that is ma'akev, thereby you continuing to eat. Either you said Havlon v'nivrich, or you washed Mayim Achroinim. Here, the Gemara is also referring to that it's Ma'akev es HaBracha, that in order to then say Birkas HaMazon, those who are accustomed to use oil on their hands, to clean their hands, then you have to do that even after the Mayim Achronim, before making Birkas HaMazon. Rabbi Zivoy, a different Tana, Oimer, Einoi Ma'akev. It's not Ma'akev the Shemen. Rabbi Acha Oimer Shemen Toiv Ma'akev. If it's good smelling Shemen, it is Ma'akev. Rabbi Zohomai Oimer Keshen Shemezuhom Posul La'avoida. Just like if a person has a bad smell, it's Posul the Avoida. Kach Yodayim Mezuhomois Psulos Levrocha. So too, hands that are smelling from the food that he ate also are going to Posul the bracha of Birkas HaMazon. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Ano lo ziloi v'lo zivoi v'lo zihumoi yodana. I don't know any of these opinions. Elo masnisa yadana. I know the brisa. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, that Rav Yehuda taught in the name of Rav. V'amei lo b'masnisa tana. And some say it was actually the brisa itself. It says the following in the pasuk. The pasuk reads, Ki ani Hashem Elokeichem v'hiskadishtem v'hisem kedoshim ki kodosh oni. So the Gemara makes the drasha. V'hiskadishtem elu mayim ach rishonim. V'hisem kedoshim elu mayim achronim. Ki kodosh ze shemen. In other words, the kedusha and the tahara of a person's hands is dependent on the nikius, the cleaning of those hands with water and also with shemen. Then another pasuk says, "V'hiskadishtem v'hisem kedoshim ki ani Hashem Elokeichem." So Gemara makes the drasha, "Ani Hashem Elokeichem zu bracha." This is referring to Birkas HaMazon.